The only thing animals have is freedom, but sometimes they lose even that. Today, I'm going to show you the heroes who've decided to fight so that every four-legged or feathered animal can come home to freedom. So hit that bell to start. Perhaps the cruelest thing destiny can do is to take away the ability to run from the fastest animal in the world. Good thing there are caring people among us who aren't gonna let that slide. If you think animals getting released is cute and fun, well then how about when the animal's a little less furry, more toothy, and 3 meters long? After a long period of rehabilitation after a serious accident, this Florida panther can't believe that he's just one step away from his long-awaited freedom, which is so scary to take. Animals often find themselves in hopeless situations, but not all are lucky enough to escape them. This coyote is one of the lucky ones who was found by rescuers and was returned to the wild after 3 weeks of care. The first steps in freedom are always difficult, especially when you've only ever set foot on the cold bars of a cage. That makes this all the more inspiring. This guy's name is Kevin, and he has become a true friend to these lions. But now, it's time for them to go back to their real family and take their place in the pride. Fleeing from deforestation, this leopard ended up on the streets of India's Uttar Pradesh, where fortunately, he fell into the hands of animal rights activists who helped him find a safe place in his habitat. Volga, Mega, and Mazak are cubs who were abandoned by their mother. They were incredibly lucky to fall into good hands, where they were sheltered and prepared for independent life in the forest. This is Hoover, the only one out of 12 tigers that an international animal rights organization managed to save from a cramped cage in a Peruvian service. Thanks to volunteers, he was able to find a new home, where he saw the forest for the first time and even swam in a lake. On this day, Grant County, Colorado was forever changed because for the first time in history, 3 male and 2 female wolves were released here to build a new community in this pristine wilderness. Hold on to your jaw because it's about to drop. Over 1 million pigeons were set free at the same time, and they immediately took off to conquer the skies of Portugal. To release a 6-ton male elephant into the wild, good intentions alone aren't enough. Animal rights activists first have to find a suitable taxi for him. After a long winter, these cows are finally stepping outside for the first time, and for some of the little ones, this is the first walk of their lives. Just look at these emotions. Have you ever seen cows jumping for joy like this? Tell us in the comments. This is one of those cases when an animal's emotions are better than any words, because even the king of beasts is moved at the sight of a beautiful African preserve after it's been living in an enclosure. This condor needed a miracle to survive, and some rehab specialists in Mendoza were prepared to make it happen. Just look at him now. It was definitely worth it. This little lynx seems unsure of what to do next because she simply can't believe that the cage has finally opened and she's being allowed to explore her new home. After 6 years in isolation, this lion finally found himself in the land of his ancestors. Sure, it's hard for him to walk as he undergoes rehabilitation, but thanks to some improved nutrition and living conditions, he's definitely starting to perk up. The little fella in this box was in dire need when he was orphaned, so he was taken to the rescue center for orphaned bear cubs, where he spent 8 months preparing for this exact moment. These guys got a little farther from civilization so that the hundreds of hooligans they were about to release wouldn't wreak havoc on the local residents' gardens. This story is about a family of lions who were given the gift of freedom by caring people who rescued them from a Romanian zoo. This preserve in South Africa is their new home now. no creature should ever be stuffed in a cage. That's probably the slogan for the Mahola Holo Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, because the sheer number of animals they have freed deserves respect. When volunteers from the Jaguar Rescue Center found this baby, he just wouldn't stop crying. Veterinarians said that he was perfectly fine, but it all made sense once the little one's mother, whom he had been separated from for 2 days, showed up. She'll never let him out of her sight again. When a baby kingfisher got stuck in a tree, it could have ended in tragedy, but one man not only helped it escape, but also gave it some time to reflect on the fact that it was finally free. A whole special operation was launched by professionals to free a 5-day-old elephant calf from a muddy pond. Listen to how the mother elephant thanks the people for what they did. Meet Ilona, Bordia, and Kutsia, more tigers that were once orphaned by poachers. After rescue and rehabilitation, these amazing animals are finally being released so they can join the last 360 of their rarest relatives remaining in the wild. Sharks must always be on the move so they can push oxygenated water through their gills. Otherwise, they'd simply drown. Fortunately, rescuers were able to prevent that from happening and return this 15-ton beauty home. The moment has come for this bearded dragon to go on his free journey. But first, listen to this guy's lecture.
Off you go. There she goes.
Gerdzi and Matimba are orphans who lost their mother to poachers. They've been in the care of the Hoedsprout Endangered Species Center ever since. Now, after plenty of love, care, and 5 years of patience, they're ready for their next chapter, returning to the wild where they belong. Another lucky creature is finally free. Imagine how long this koala had been dreaming about finally climbing into a tree again. It may come as a surprise, but this is exactly what superheroes look like in real life, and this owl is just one of them. Meet Ziggy, Bubbles, Siberia, and Sinbad, babies who lost their mother and miraculously ended up at the Marine Mammal Rescue Center at the Vancouver Aquarium, where they underwent a rehabilitation course. Now it's time for them to go explore the ocean. And here's the result of the combined efforts of many caring people, foundations, and partners who together managed to release 25 bighorn sheep into their natural habitat. In a stroke of good luck, an ordinary photographer was able to come to this eagle's aid. Nothing in the world could stop this guide from helping someone in need, even from such a desperate situation. Saving animals isn't as easy as it seems, but thanks to the professional training and skills of specialists, these wolves were returned to freedom. Great news from Forder Valley in Plymouth, where for the first time in more than 400 years, the Eurasian beaver is being released to create a suitable habitat. Look at how delighted these lions are when they realize they don't have to live in circus cages anymore. Now they have an entire nature preserve at their disposal where they can bask in the sun in peace and safety. Every moment counts in situations like these. Who knows, if people had noticed this poor fella just a minute later, then he never would have been able to return to the ocean. Sometimes, simply releasing an animal into the wild isn't enough. When it comes to 1-year-old orphan bears, Bradley and Cooper, zoologists also had to make sure that they would be safe in the wild. Not only did they rescue them, but they also taught them how to find food, make shelter, and survive. This crew from the Amos Rehabilitation Center decided to instill a love of speed in the first sea turtles that were strong enough to live in their natural habitat. Here's more proof that animals have feelings just like humans do. Watch how this baby goat reacts to seeing its mother again after getting lost. This pangolin thought it was being transferred to yet another cage, so it is understandably stunned to learn that it's actually returning to its real home. As a result of the Rena oil spill disaster in New Zealand, hundreds of blue penguins needed to be saved from the pollution. Eventually, these little guys were safely returned home. And this must be the happiest koala in the world. No wonder, because it has finally been rehabilitated and is ready to get back to its family, who have been anxiously waiting. This barn could make for plenty of beautiful engagement and wedding photos, and here's why. But the people at the National White Dove Release Society know that the pigeons themselves will decide what's best for them when they're free. After receiving a full medical checkup, Daniel the howler monkey is ready to return to the rainforest where he can be at peace. Here's some exciting news. 11 young zebras have been delivered and released to their new home at Ukawela Game Reserve in South Africa. What would you do if 2 baby possums came into your yard? Well, you'd take them to where you last saw their mother, of course. For most animals, 10 years is 90% of their lifespan, and this bear spent all those years locked up. But today is the day she and her offspring find freedom. At last, the freedom to fly. After falling into sewage, this eagle has been rehabilitated and will once again take to the skies. You are about to witness the creation of a new family in this area, which will continue to grow not behind bars, but free. These chimpanzees were subjected to all kinds of medical experiments over the course of 40 years before finally being set free. I think we can all agree that freedom is what they deserved all along, and we're so glad they finally got it. Check out this touching moment when a lion named Sinbad realizes that his life has changed dramatically for the better. After living in a cage for so long, he doesn't seem to know what to do with all that space. This large family was released into a new home with a swimming pool. They were moved away from the city so that they could live in safety and harmony with nature. What is this, grass? That's probably what these birds were thinking when they first looked out of the box and saw their new home. After being injured in heavy rain, this owl underwent rehabilitation for 2 months in order to one day return to its life in freedom. Is that the tree it's chosen for its new home? This pair of Mexican wolves is being released in a special area where they can find relatives and spend their lives in safety with their family. A month ago, this eagle was found with a broken wing, and today it's returning to the sky. You've seen one animal released at a time, and maybe even 3 at a time, but how about 165 red deer being released simultaneously in a spacious reserve? This stingray accidentally ended up on a ship, but it's time for him to go back to the ocean where his family is probably waiting for him. This baby penguin has been rehabilitated, and the time has come for him to be released. He's not so sure about parting with his rescuer, but an ocean of adventure calls, and the little guy eventually answers. It's hard to imagine a more hopeless situation than the one that this killer whale found itself in. But any problem can be solved when caring humans are determined to set you free.
Wants to be past that rock.
This family decided to help their domestic panther get acquainted with the wild. Just look at how her Rottweiler friend guides her on a tour through the snowy forest. Many people keep cockatoos locked up as pets, but no matter how much they love you, they love freedom more. George the platypus spent several months in Taronga Hospital after being accidentally found exhausted in a trap with no hope of being rescued. But that's all in the past, and now it's time for the cutest reunion with nature. It's awful to think how this snow leopard story would have ended if volunteers hadn't saved it in time from the injuries it received from broken glass. But we can certainly say that thanks to them, this 50-kilogram cat will be able to go home. This 60-pound Pacific octopus has been studied at the Seattle Aquarium since it was the size of a grain of rice. But now it's time for it to go on out and live a full life. All these people have gathered for one special event to help guide a family of beavers to a nature preserve where the beautiful creatures can build their ecosystem in total freedom. It's heartbreaking to say goodbye to a friend that you know you'll never see again, but you'll at least know you did the right thing, because now it's where it truly belongs. The time has come for these two eagle owls to leave their guardians and start life out on their own. These endangered amphibians are called hellbenders, and believe it or not, this is the 10,000th individual that these volunteers have released over 20 years. Vanilla and Shake are already adult chimpanzees, but this is their first time stepping into the open air. Look at how emotional they are. Vanilla is in awe of the huge sky and can't believe that she can look at it all the time now. Hyenas may look like big dogs, but believe me, they are much less friendly, which is why this caretaker decides to find a safe place before opening the gate. Not only do honey badgers fight back against lions and hyenas, but they also often cause mischief on farms, so now they're being released far away from people. It looks like this squad of African penguins spent all their free time preparing for a special operation to escape from the orphanage. From birth, these zebras have had nothing but their freedom and each other. No one has the right to keep them locked up. Today, these volunteers have changed the lives of 5 sea lion pups by releasing them into the natural world. One look at this fox and you'll understand what it's like for a wild animal to find itself in captivity. Fortunately, the stress will be over soon, because this creature is in good hands. After spending almost a year in rehab at the Two Oceans Aquarium, this green turtle is finally going home to the ocean to live another 40, 50, or even 80 years. Just a couple of months ago, little Habanero was living out his last days tangled up in plastic, while starving Mulberry was suffering from exhaustion. But now, having been healed and well-fed, these two are getting a second chance at a happy life. Have you ever wondered what impact the pet trade has on nature? Well, if not, then imagine how the environment must suffer when more than 600 birds are suddenly taken from it. That's exactly how all these white-winged parrots ended up here. Few stories have a happy ending when a Bengal tiger wanders into a settlement, but this time is an exception. Rescuers managed to not only protect people, but also the animal itself. And now, the big cat is returning home. It took animal rights activists several years to rescue these 2 beluga whales from captivity, but it was worth it. Now, these 2 beauties can live out the rest of their lives in Iceland. This gray fox accidentally injured herself while trying to escape a trap, but fortunately, University Heights Point veterinarians were able to quickly treat its wounds and release it back into the wild. Imagine how hopeless this poor civet must have felt when it realized there was no way to get out of a 45-foot well. Thankfully, forestry department workers were able to find a way to free the animal in time. Some little swans became trapped and not even their parents could help them, but this kind soul found a way to reunite the family. This baby hawk was abandoned by its mother, but luckily it also ended up in good hands that raised and fed it. Now, the time has come to take off into a new life of freedom. You're about to witness the UK's first polar bear cub in 25 years take its first steps in an outdoor enclosure under Mama's watchful eye. Take a look at this breathtaking footage from Arizona as a golden eagle is released back into the wild where it was originally found injured on the side of the road. As you can see, thanks to rehabilitation efforts, it is completely ready to fly home. This is Gaston, and today is an important day for him because he's returning from rehabilitation after losing his leg. But thanks to these volunteers, he didn't lose his life. When these two jaguars lost their mother to poachers, they thought they would spend the rest of their lives in an enclosure in the Amazon. But a year later, animal activists managed to secure their release, and now they have a chance to find a new home in a safe area.
What's capable of rocking a 2-ton truck like that? A rhinoceros in the prime of its life, which these people decided to set free. They're lucky the rhino decided not to end them.
This opossum thought it would be stuck behind the gate of a kennel forever, so it simply can't believe that it's actually seeing its home again.
This is why the team got far away from the trailer before letting the grizzly out. Because this big boy doesn't understand that they just helped him get home.
This lonely hippo was saved from poachers and taken to a wildlife sanctuary.
He must have thought he made it to hippo heaven when he realized that he was safe and that he was the only male around.
Still don't think animals have feelings? Check out this mama pig and her 6 piglets who were rescued from a slaughterhouse. They are free for the first time and are literally jumping for joy. This leopard's life was saved by an operation, and now it can't wait to take advantage of this new opportunity.
This must be the angriest fox in the world. But it only needs one thing for a major attitude adjustment: freedom.
This lion spent all 13 years of its life in a little circus cage. But now, for the first time, it can feel the grass and run free. This lion hasn't made a full recovery, but as soon as he realizes that the path to freedom is open, well, many lives were lost to this 300-kilogram crocodile, and it was going to be put down. But the villagers decided to break the cycle of violence and release it far away from people where it belongs. Even though they look like cute cats, ocelots are not pets at all. They belong out in nature. Just look at how much it means to this one. After 3 weeks of treatment, it's time for a little monkey to go home, where everyone's been waiting. Look, the whole family's hugging her. They're so similar to humans. A man decided to help a badger get back to the wild. But releasing this angry little guy turned out to be tougher than he thought.
One out. There you go.
Little Pippa and Po were rescued and rehabilitated and now are old enough to be back in the wild. Imagine what it would be like to spend 30 years in laboratories as test subjects. Well, these chimpanzees are about to go outside for the first time. The way they hug each other out of pure joy just breaks my heart. No creature should have to be put through something like that. Releasing a whole herd of bison back into the wild requires more than just opening a gate. A professional rescuer literally had to lead them. Animal rights activists were releasing some rescued orangutans, but something went wrong with one of the males. His fit of rage even put the other apes in danger. The humans had to find a way to complete the rescue operation as soon as possible. A 450-kilogram polar bear had to resort to unconventional methods to get back to the wild. The pilots were limited in how high and far they could go because the bear could have woken up at any moment. Fortunately, the bear woke up as soon as it got home. To safely release a rhinoceros, national park officials had to resort to unprecedented security measures. After all, elephants were the only ones strong enough to withstand its charge. This is Tuffy the bear, and this is his first time being happy to be alive. That's because, until today, his entire life has been spent in a cage too small for him to even stand up in. These volunteers rescued 51 desert bighorn sheep and helped them form a flock. Now, they're being reintroduced to an area where none of these animals have been for many years. After yet another flight, this Amur tiger was probably expecting to be taken to a vet clinic to continue recovery. But it was actually his last flight because he's healthy. A polar bear wandered a whole 120 kilometers from home and ended up on the other side of Newfoundland. Now, it just can't believe that it's back home again. This animal was supposed to be taken home by ship, but the beast couldn't stand to be in a cage any longer. Without humans' help, these 328 lost turtles would have never reached the water, but now they're ready to take on the ocean. This guy brought a black-footed ferret back to its natural habitat, but the poor thing was so scared that it forgot where to run. Who would have thought that removing an old sewer could save a life? I don't know how this bear got in there, but he could have been stuck forever. These chimpanzees were used for medical experiments for almost 40 years before they were released. That's the maximum lifespan for these animals in captivity. I hope they still have some time left to enjoy their new freedom. The freedom of these wild horses shouldn't have ended at the fence of the ranch where they were living. So now, no more boundaries for them. There are only 110,000 giraffes left in the world. That's about as many seats as there are in Michigan Stadium. So getting these 4 back into the wild was critical. The veterinarian who saved this chimpanzee's life decided to personally release him back into the wild. And they gave the chimp a chance to thank her for the last time. If
If you can believe it, just a month and a half ago, this adult panda weighed only 60 kilograms. But after being rehabilitated, this big guy is ready for his new home. The time for these two orphaned otters to be released into the wild has finally come, and it seems to be the greatest day of their lives. During a flood, this giraffe became stranded on a small island that was completely surrounded by crocodiles. But rescuers found a way to save him and give him a new home. This man paid for what these birds needed most, their freedom. And all of these people have gathered for one reason: to see rescued African penguins return to the wild. These heroes managed to return 9 orphan elephants to freedom.
That's our objectives and our targets.
Yeah.
Just the day before, this sea lion was nearly strangled to death by plastic garbage. But today is the beginning of his new life. This is what happens when you set the right goal for yourself, like freeing all the birds from the animal market. This giraffe wandered into civilization and found itself in trouble. Rescuers were barely able to keep the 2-ton animal from injuring itself, but now it's going home. A couple of weeks ago, this mother koala was hit by a car, but thanks to professional veterinarians and the support of her child, these two are back to normal life. After suffering serious injuries, this eagle underwent rehabilitation for a whole year and had to learn to fly again. But now, the moment has come to return to the sky. I have no idea how this poor coyote ended up in such a predicament, but I do know that it was extremely lucky that this ship and crew came to the rescue so he could get back home. A little duckling became trapped, and even its parents were helpless to do anything, but this woman found a way to free it. "20 years in the circus cost a she-bear named Chada her vision, all her teeth, and her hope. But she was rescued. Now she'll spend the rest of her life in a comfortable reserve under the supervision of caring professionals." Well, all the animals have been freed for today. Have you ever helped an animal be set free? Please tell us about it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new videos.